Call of Duty can't change. And if you really do change anything about the game, Call of Duty gets a gun to the head and is forced to revert these changes that they make. When COD does actually make changes and throw something at the wall and it sticks, it is a huge success right out the gate. Let's take a look at some of the last few Call of Duties that have done some of these changes. I want to mainly look at Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 6, where they fundamentally changed how movement works. And movement has become one of the bigger things in Call of Duty as of recently. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 revitalized the slower, more tactical movement playstyle. It slowed the pace down from what we had with Warzone 1 / the current multiplayer state, where it was a fast-paced movement. It was hit with a huge success. It saw one of the biggest launches of the franchise, saw some of the biggest hype I've ever seen for a Call of Duty with a return to form. And then fast forward to Black Ops 6, the current Call of Duty, they took the pace, which was already pretty fast, and then sped it up even more with Omni movement, where you could slide, dive, whatever, in any direction. And Call of Duty, once again, saw a huge success. It saw the biggest launch it's ever seen in the entire franchise. With these two Call of Duties, people eventually start to complain about this. They start to complain about how this movement is, or how these new things making the game better, they actually make the game worse. Or how these changes aren't good, we want the old Warzone, or we want old multiplayer back. Whether you like it or not, COD's lack of changes, or their lack of keeping their changes, has kind of caused COD to fall into a limbo where they really can't change. And if they do change, it's not by much, adding a little few quality of life changes here and there, such as the higher wall mount, mantling, and ledge hanging, and other quality of life changes, because they don't really want to change from the status quo. Let's look back to Modern Warfare 2019 and its change to Cold War. Treyarch was known for more of a classy, arcadey style movement. Players really didn't like this movement because they preferred Modern Warfare 19's movement and how that played and how fast that was once you really got a hang of the movement. So, therefore, that movement style didn't transfer to Warzone. Fast forward to Vanguard, destructible environment is the big thing from Vanguard. Once again, these changes don't impact Warzone. And then fast forward to Modern Warfare 2022, we just talked about that, how it slowed the pace down, made it more tactical, where you had to be more tactical with your play style. Therefore, players, mainly content creators, slammed the game for slowing down the pace. So therefore, Modern Warfare 3 happened, which then they mainly took what Modern Warfare 2 did, and reverted most of it and sped up the pace. Then with Black Ops 6, Omni movement obviously sped up the pace even more. And now the player count has dwindled, the November numbers and even the early December numbers. So where am I going with this? Well, since COD's lack of changing the game, people, such as myself, have kind of been burnt out of Call of Duty. Why? Every time there's a change made to the fundamental core of the game, content creators, mainly, slam the game and pound and just beg Call of Duty to change this, because these people don't like this. They don't like they don't like this change. And mainly people keep complaining how the game isn't as similar 2020, 2021. And then you have people who obviously are complaining that the game isn't as similar as it was in 2012. People don't want COD to change, but it needs to change to keep the game fresh or people will get burnt out. Let's look at Fortnite, for example. Fortnite is on Chapter 6, Season 2. It's had 6 big chapter updates that have updated the map, keeping the game fresh, and every 2 to 3 months they add big map changes, loot pool changes to keep the game fresh. Call of Duty, on the other hand, you have an overabundant amount of weapons, and you keep adding more weapons, you keep adding more skins, you keep adding more stuff, so the game is kind of bloated. The game's changes aren't actually big changes. Urzikstan, for example, has not changed really in roughly a year and a half. The community hates change. COD is stuck in a limbo, because my theory, honestly, Omni movement's not going to be around for very much longer. Even though their current plan is to keep it around for Black Ops 7 and maybe even Modern Warfare 4, I think that the community will start to really push back on Omni movement, or at least, but some of the stuff might stick, such as like the 360 prone movement. I think the first COD that might actually get rid of Omni movement might be MW4, because I feel like Infinity Ward's pretty strict and they really like their tactical movement stuff. On April 3rd, we returned to Verdansk. We returned to 2020, 2021, where we're playing on Verdansk with the addition of Omni movement. People will probably complain that the game is nowhere near the same as it was in 2020, and people will say the game is nowhere near what they want it to be. To be honest, if we kept Call of Duty the exact same how it was since 2020, people will get burnt out. We'd be sick of playing Verdansk for the 10,000th time. Once again, let's look at Fortnite. Fortnite brought back the OG map, the OG permanent mode. When it first came back in 2023, it was a huge success. It was a huge hit for the company. But now that it's permanent and it's back, nobody really cares. Nobody really gives a fuck, because we're burnt out of playing that map. We played that map before. We played that map 7 years ago. It was cool when it was back for a month, but we were burnt out after that month of playing the map, because we were like, oh, okay, this is the old map. We're back. We will do the same song and dance for the next month. But now the permanent mode's back. The player count has dwindled. It's super low. And honestly, I think Verdansk will probably see the same exact thing. Verdansk will see the exact same kind of progression as OG Fortnite mode if Verdansk keeps Verdansk how it was in OG. But what it sounds like is that they might make changes to how Verdansk is and might change it differently from how it was back in 2020 and how those seasons went. But I think that's a rumor. I don't think there's any validity to that. The community is all over the place. It's the most bipolar community I've ever been a part of. People's opinions keep changing. In 2020, we hated Verdansk for how it played the verticality, people sitting on roofs, people sitting in staircases, people wearing all black rose skins, camping with their meta loadouts. We didn't like that. But now all of a sudden, 5 years later, we're nostalgia for it. We like some of the aspects of it, so we're very nostalgic for it and we want it back. People's opinions change, and I get that. I totally get that. I understand that completely. It just kind of sucks that after 5 years of progressing the game, we're falling back to what we were in 2020, but with the overbloatedness that we currently have, which is currently the issue with Call of Duty, or at least with Warzone as of right now, is overbloated. Way too much going on. So honestly, probably Warzone, if it does not get shut down, we'll get another reset. We'll probably see like a Warzone 3 or whatever, and I hope they can actually nail it this time. I think what they should do is, if they really want to carry the operators over, they can, but keep the weapons behind. Keep the skins, sell them for cheaper because you won't have your weapon blueprints anymore. Sell skins, emotes, camos. That's it. And then for the people who want realism, have a realism filter. You can't see any emotes, you can't see crazy wacky skins, all that stuff. I think that's the best way you can really go about it, to where you can kind of get that happy medium. I think the main reason BO6 fell off a cliff was because of burnout. The game fell back into a place where it's been at for the last 6 Call of Duties. We fell back into a rhythm. We ended up just getting Call of Duty that added omni movement and the exact same process and progression that we've had for the last 6 years, with seasons every 2 months, with a mid-season update that nerfs, buffs guns, and then we end up having to watch a YouTube video or a short or a TikTok about what's the best XP method, what's the most optimal loadout to run. We've been doing that song and dance for 6 years at this point, basically, and people are burnt out of this. I myself am burnt out of this. I'm sick of having to every single season level up a gun. It ends up being not meta after a month or two, or the gun ends up staying meta for the next however long and the game becomes stale and boring. I don't know what the happy medium is for Call of Duty with that, but I hope somehow the developers or somebody can come up with a better idea than I have for how Call of Duty can change this current limbo that they're stuck in, because I'm burnt out of Call of Duty. I don't want to sit and level up guns in multiplayer, because multiplayer is honestly just becoming a level up simulator for Warzone. It's not as fun as I've enjoyed previous older Call of Duties. I don't know if they need to change the entire system of seasons or how they do updates. I don't know. There needs to be some sort of change, or else you're going to see more and more people get burnt out. Call of Duty will fall into a state where not a lot of people are going to enjoy it. I think this is why a lot of content creators have left Call of Duty, is because of burnout, and the game's lack of change has caused the player count to dwindle. Once again, like I said in my SPMM video, this isn't the only reason the game is failing. The game doesn't have an identity. The game has the most egregious SPMM I've ever seen. Cheaters are running rampant on PC, game-breaking glitches, an overabundant amount of guns in the game, broken metas. The game lack of change, or the lack of changes sticking, will be the downfall of Call of Duty. Also, Call of Duty is too big of an IP to really die out, at least anytime soon. And that's all I got. This is probably my 4th time recording this video. I crashed out on the first 3, and I needed to mellow out a little bit on my talking, because I wasn't really making any valid points. So anyways, I'd like to thank everybody for the support on my most recent videos. I'm getting closer and closer to 400 subscribers. I'm at 392 right now, so I'd like to thank you guys all for that. And once again, I hope you have a great rest of your morning, evening, afternoon. I hope you remember that you matter and you're important to this world, and I will catch you in the next one.